The Distinguished Lifetime Achievement Award recognizes an individual who has demonstrated commitment and dedicated service to the promotion of the engineering community through their outstanding participation on the OSPE Board of Directors, committees, or other volunteer efforts. The award recognizes those individuals who have made extraordinary contributions to directly advance the efforts of OSPE in a profound and lasting manner. This year's recipient of the Distinguished Lifetime Achievement Award is Paul Acchione.
So my name is Paul Acchione. I'm a professional engineer here in Ontario. I was born in Italy on a farm in a small community south of Rome, and my parents brought me to Canada after the Second World War. By high school, I got interested in electrical and electronic equipment, and by the time I was finished, I knew I wanted to be an engineer. And through university, I took a liking to automatic control systems, and by the time I graduated, I decided I wanted to go into the control field, which is a combination of mechanical and electrical. And I joined Ontario Hydro after I graduated from the University of Toronto. And I joined the instrumentation and control department to work on the nuclear power plants. So I had a wonderful career designing them for the first half of my career. And the last half, I was in a group that did the computer simulation and analysis of the power plants to make sure they would run right. And also we specialized in looking at equipment failures and the root cause and how to fix it. We got a bit of a reputation for being the go-to group for fixing things. I had some of the best simulation and analysts in the world. We stumbled into the root cause of what caused the 3 Mile Island accident when the relief valves failed and dumped all that water on the floor. And we published that paper in Japan. And even Ontario wanted us to go on a roadshow to explain it to everybody. So sometimes you end up with something like that that has a real impact and makes all the plants around the world safer. When I retired from Ontario Hydro, I saw energy policy decisions that I wasn't happy with because the people making those decisions didn't know how the grid worked. And the Ontario grid is very unique. So I was quite concerned that the energy policies that were adopted from other countries like Germany and the United States were going to drive electricity rates and emissions in Ontario higher rather than lower. So I got interested in influencing that energy policy debate, and the best organization I could find was OSPE and their energy task force. So I volunteered, and then I started writing. So I took an interest in the last 15 years doing public advocacy work, and along the way they asked me to run for the president's job, which I got in 2013, 2014. So I was president and chair of the organization for a year. OSPE wrote several reports. One we did on nuclear power plants and what their requirements should be for the Ontario electrical grid. That was done because they went out for a bid for a new nuclear plant and they got a price that was crazy because the spec was not written properly, which made nuclear totally uneconomic, so they canceled the project. So that report was written to encourage the government to put in the appropriate things in the specification so it would come out reasonable in price. The second report was wind and the electrical grid, trying to explain why in Ontario that we have this peculiar problem that if you put wind on the grid at night, emissions and costs go up because our grid is designed to run on hydraulic and nuclear at night. So when you shut those plants down, you're wasting your money. The third report was how do we decarbonize the rest of the economy, the heating sector and the transportation sector, and we produced a report on using the surplus power that we have, which is cheap because it's just wasted, and that got some interesting reviews. And then we did a report on changing the retail electricity rates so that we can use the surplus power at night to charge electric vehicles and to clean up our heating in our homes. When they announced that I had been nominated for the Lifetime Achievement Award, I felt a little humbled. I appreciate it, and hopefully as what we've done in Ontario and will continue to do in Ontario is to steer the government into making good energy policy decisions so that we can achieve that net zero down the road at a reasonable cost and clean up our air and water in the province.
For his lifelong dedication to the engineering profession and his tireless efforts to sustain OSPE and ensure the smart growth of our energy sector, Paul Acchione is a worthy recipient of the Distinguished Lifetime Achievement Award.